So when looking at geography, one of the biggest books that kind of influenced me and how I understand geography now is this book by Tim Marshall called Prisoners of Geography. And it covers specifically 10 different maps that explain the world in breakout regions as to like what it looks like, and it goes very in depth into a few nuanced areas, which it kind of like it would help kind of perceive certain regions of the world. And looking at this felt just perfect for the context of how I'd be doing a class. Now, let's start off easily by showing the map. This would be the first page, and this would begin already to activate that background knowledge with my students, because they've all seen maps and they all like, but a lot of the maps that they've seen so far are very like we see like a green Montana or and a purple Utah. But now that they see this, and we're going to be looking at like physical landforms within the United States and how to kind of like think about that, they would see this topographical map and we'd be able to do that, as well as also engaging the sensory images so that we can understand it can like actually when we go through the reading we can actually see ourselves going through the United States. The first piece is that we'd be drawing influences from the text using background information, and from here we would start off with the it's in a wonderful neighborhood. The views are marvelous, and there's some terrific water features. The transport links are excellent, and the neighbors are great, no trouble at all. And then it goes on into that next paragraph saying if you broke this living space up into numerous sections, it would be considerably lower its value, especially if the tenants didn't all speak the same language and pay the rent in different currencies. It kind of starts to formulate that why as a country and as a region and the what we are as Americans, kind of why we are one united. Going to the following page, we see that we start off at the top right here, and it says, painting this vast country in a bold brush broad strokes from east to west, you can divide it into three. And it's kind of like it's making a like we'd be formulating and making a prediction with the students, like, well, how would I actually divide the country into three distinct little areas or three distinct regions, and as we do it. And it also says we're going from east to west, so they can start to kind of picture, it's like if I'm going from east, how am I going from the east to the west? Then we start to we get into that paragraph right afterwards, and we kind of start actually visualizing this. And it goes, first, there's an east coast plain leading to the Appalachian Mountains, an area well watered by short but navigatable rivers with fertile soil. Then heading further west, you have the Great Plains stretching all the way to the Rocky Mountains. With the section lies the Mississippi River Basin, along with its network of huge navigable rivers flowing into the Mississippi River all the way down the Gulf of Mexico, which is sheltered by the peninsula of Florida and several islands. Once over the massive mountain range of the Rockies, you get to the desert and the Sierra Mountains, a narrow coastal plain, you finally get to the shores of the Pacific. And so that whole paragraph, and then there's even more paragraphs behind that, but it really details and it kind of really describes all this information that my students would actually be kind of like visualizing and actually kind of like seeing this story in their head and while we go and actually read this.